Jimmy Baynes. I was born in 1923, which makes me 95 this year. And I've seen quite a lot of changes during that period. I was born into the East End of London in a lifestyle you wouldn't imagine. Life was very, very basic. Just one cold water tap in a sink in the scullery, no central heating, no telephones, no electricity even. We had gas lamps and things of that nature. And life was pretty rough in those days, but we all managed. Went to the infant school, of course, and then on to the big boys, and left there at 14, and started an apprenticeship up in London as a printer. 7-year apprenticeship to become a compositor, that is. And life was quite easy. We made do with ordinary things, not like you have today with bat phones and card games. None of that. We used to amuse ourselves with games like 5 stones or a whip and top or a hoop with a ring. You joke now, but in those days that's what we had. Anyway, came the Second World War, and I became 18 years old, and I thought, I'm liable for conscription here. So rather than be railroaded into anything, I wanted to join the Navy, so off I went to Romford, into the drill hall there, signed a form to join the Navy, had a medical on the spot, passed it, a few eye tests, and that was it. And early in 1942, I received my papers to report to HMS Collingwood in Fareham, much to my mother's amazement and annoyance. However, off I went. And in those days, the Navy of those days was a totally different one than what it is today. There had been a war going on for about 3 years then, and we were having a rather rough time of it. In fact, the area in which I was living up and down to the going to work, frequently bombed. We had to blitz most nights. So it wasn't a sort of a peaceful scene at all. Anyway, one day in 1942, about 40 young teenagers walked through the gates of Collingwood, all from all over the country, and we formed 2 classes and became, or when we trained to become visual signalmen. Visual signalmen as opposed to wireless telegraphy where you sit quietly in an office and tap a key. Visual, exactly what it meant, which meant that my place of duty really was on the bridge, and we used to transmit and receive signals in Morse, using perhaps an Aldis lamp, a very small lamp which plugged into a power point, a trigger on the handle, and a rubber sighting device which you press against your eye in order to train the thing accurately. If you didn't train it accurately, the bloke at the other end didn't get it. They also had a searchlight lamp with a handle on the side. You can do Morse with that. And of course a pair of semaphore flags. And then we had a series of flags, multicolour flags, which really was the language which we used at sea. And it was our job to learn these flags off by heart, learn the Morse code off by heart. And in order to do this, it's quite remarkable what they did. Our instructor was a tough guy called Hugo Mawinder, and he made it quite plain from the start that life could be easy or not, up to us. So we chose the easy route, of course. And we suddenly found ourselves becoming ships, if you follow my meaning, not men. For instance, if I took 6 of you outside and said, I'm going to call your attention, march you up there, turn you around, bring you back, stop you, you would know what I mean. I would cautionary tale like squad, son, you come to attention, squad will advance, you know what I mean, quick march, you go, squad will turn about turn, back you come, squad will halt, and you did it. Easy. I'll do that now, I'll become the admiral, and I'll do that with 6 ships. You can't say to a ship, quick march, or about turn. No, we had our own code. And you'll see by the flags on the wall. And in the signal book, the flag George, when followed by a figure, said the fleet will proceed at the speed indicated. So what the admiral would do, he'd shout down to the flag deck, George 10. And they'd whip up the flag George and 10. And when it was flying at the yard arm, all the other ships had to hoist an answering pennant, which means we understand. I would shout, George 10, down, and they move off, like quick march. They're going, well, I want to bring them back. There's a manoeuvring pennant, a big blue pennant with a bearing, and underneath it you put blue 18, which means turn individually 180 degrees to starboard, which is about to turn. So blue 18, up. They all put their answering pillars up, down, they turn around and come back. Of course, the phonetic alphabet I'm using is different to the one we've got today. The one we had then, it was FD was stop engine, so hoist fox dog went up. They all answered with their pennants, kept going. When I got to where I want them, down, and they stopped. So you see, on the playground, we did things like that. It's quite remarkable to look at it, like a circus act, but it's very, very effective. But of course, Chiefy, he's very patient for a while, but if we really didn't satisfy him, he used to get very, very angry. And at each end of the enormous playground in Collingwood, terrific size it was, with huge masts at each end with yard arms, cross trees and signal halyards, and a flag locker, with all the flags hanging out of it. And he used to stand in the middle of the playground with a card table, the box of flags about 4 inches square, he'll come on a stick, hold it up like that for 10 seconds. At each end of the playground, there was one of us on the head of the flag, the others with a tack line on the bottom, the other one with a telescope. Man with the telescope would scream out what Chiefy was hoisting, and we'd throw ourselves at the locker and bend it on, and these flags had to go up like lightning. If you didn't do that, up there to sail quickly. Well, that's all very well if you do that right, but you've got to get it right. And sometimes we didn't, and as you can see. And when that happened, of course, Chiefy would tell the world that he was seriously contemplating packing his job up and perhaps joining the Girl Guides, so he finds an intelligent company, something like that, but I know what he meant. Anyway, if on the other hand we pleased him, we're in the middle of the playground doing our exercises, when the bugle was to sound for a break, stand easy, directly the loud hail thing came on, it used to crackle, and we knew it was going to go. And Chief would make sure that we were pointing in the right direction. If we pleased him, this was, and directly this little crackle sound, he'd scream, VS 59, that was us, George Sue 5, which was double marked, item jig, which meant preceding execution of previous orders, straight in the canteen, just as the bugle went, and we got served before the other classes. Things like that were much appreciated. If, on the other hand, we'd upset him, we had no chance. We were miles over the other side of the playground, and that was how it used to be. Anyway, life went on. Every day we had Morse, semaphore, exercise after exercise. In the gym, we scrambled up and down the wall bars, climbed ropes, ported the horse, hung from the beams, pretty fit in those days. And eventually, as we graduated one day, it all became ordinary signalmen. Mind you, we weren't really out of the egg yet, but we were all sitting there, arms like that, with little cross flags on our sleeves, proud as punch. Anyway, after that, we went off. Actually, he took us into Fareham, a local village, and we bought him a pint in a pub called the Bugle. He's still there, actually. And he said it was the best class he'd ever had. We all said, yeah, all that. And we left then, drafted away from, given some leave, and went back again. And immediately I was sent out to the Middle East, which in those days was a hotbed. France had fallen, the Mediterranean was full of Italian and German U-boats. You could not pass through the station of Gibraltar. So in order to get to the Middle East, we had to go right round South Africa on a troop ship. I went ashore in Durban. I mean, speaking of somebody that had never been abroad before, it was all an experience to me. I was only 19 at the time. And we did in various tents under canvas in the desert, and eventually made our way up to Alexandria, which is where we were based, in the Mediterranean. And there I joined the second escort group. We consisted of 4 Flower class corvettes. Now, a corvette is only a small ship, about 1,000 tons, I suppose. And it's lightly armed, got a single 4-inch gun forward, high oil guns under the bridge, a pom-pom in the middle, and depth charges, which we rolled off over the stern. That was all we had. There was Hyacinth, Delphinium, Snapdragon, and Erica. Ours was Erica. And we used 2 of us at a time would take convoys along the North African coast, because at the time, just after El Alamein, when Monty and the 8th Army began to push the Germans out of North Africa. And we used to go to Derna, Tobruk, Benghazi, Tripoli, coastal convoys, and that was my baptism to the war at sea. And I was chucked into the deep end, I assure you. It's strange, when you lose a ship at sea, it's totally different, you know. It's something which is quite frightening and awe-inspiring. 1 minute she's there, next minute she's not. I mean, if somebody on land decides to come and detonate a car bomb, for instance, we all know what happens. The place is devastated, death, destruction, and it stays like that for weeks until somebody clears it up. And even when it's cleared up, it doesn't look anything like it originally did. Not so at sea. She's going along there, she gets, well, it doesn't matter whether you're a little corvette or a battleship like the Bismarck. If you take on the enemy and you lose, you sink below the waterline, the sea clinically sweeps up. And an hour later, nothing had happened. You don't see any wreckage or nothing. Quite remarkable, really. We had a terrible loss when our group leader, which was Snapdragon at the time, we were going off to, we did a convoy to Benghazi. We were due to leave for Malta, night time it was, and Snapdragon senior officer sent us ahead and said, we'll join in a moment, I've got things to do. So we took the convoy on our own. And Snapdragon came chasing up an hour later. There'd been an air raid in Benghazi, and I think they must have followed her out, because as she got to us, she got a direct hit from a Stuka, and that was something else. That really was something else. And these things like that stay in my mind forever. 1 minute she's there, next minute, 3 minutes she's gone. And there's all your mates, you know, swim for their lives virtually. And when I smell diesel today, I'm back there. That pungent smell of diesel reminds me of Snapdragon going down. We picked up the survivors. I mean, our little ship was really built for a crew of 30 odd. We had 70. That's how tightly packed we were. We were jammed in this thing. It was a hard life, but to me it was the beginning of what I termed the finishing school. From that moment on, I really learned what life was all about. Anyway, after that, we became senior officer of the group, and sadly that meant that we lost our skipper, and that was devastating because he was a wonderful man and we would follow him anywhere. But because the Admiralty Fleet instructions stated if you became a group leader, you had to be at least a lieutenant commander, and he was a lieutenant, RNR. They took him away from us. And believe me, it was devastation. We didn't really coordinate at all. We had a new man who didn't want to know us. And I don't know what happened to him in the past, but he certainly wasn't very happy on his ship. And the result, neither were we. Anyway, later on in 1943, we were bringing a convoy back from Benghazi, lovely sunny afternoon, and suddenly there was a pinging on the ASDIC, contact. Action stations, off we go, up on the bridge looking round, and sure enough there was this contact, you could hear it. And the next minute there was one final explosion, and Erica began to sink, and I was thrown up in the air across the handrail and found myself gazing down into what was the boiler room, and it was raining, scalding water. I covered my hands with my face, fell out. That saved me actually, because I got badly burnt. And well, we were picked up by a motor launch. It used to accompany us along those, for this very reason. It would quickly come and pick you up. And I was transferred to a little ship called the Southern Maid, and I couldn't believe my eyes. When the signal on there was a bloke called Pat Bune, who'd been in Class VS 58 in our hut in Collingwood. And I must have been in a bad way, I don't remember a lot about it. But their skipper said, well, you better put him in my bunk for the night and we'll put him ashore tomorrow because we're going to call in at Derna. And I put ashore next in a Neil Robinson stretcher over the side. A nice shot of morphine, happy as a sandboy, and dropped into the ambulance and took out into the desert, an RAF station, and they were flown to Cairo, which was, well, Cairo. Me, never been further than the Isle of Wight in my life. Cairo. And there I was put in the 63rd General Hospital and surrounded by beautiful nurses. Found myself in a bed that remained stationary with beautiful white sheets, and a matron who really terrified the cleaners with her demands about how clean they should be and all that. I was taken to various outings. The Gazira Sporting Club was quite a place like the polo places around here. And we had cups of tea in a saucer. Wonderful. A cake. We didn't have any money, but finally they caught up with us and we did get about, I don't know, a couple of quid or something. Anyway, when I was cured from there, I went back. I mean, we left there, I was in a bit of a state actually, because when Erica went down, I'd lost everything. I had everything, I owned nothing. And that was applied to us all. And the hospital did their best to get us out. I had a funny old shirt that didn't fit and some pair of khaki trousers and odd sandals and a funny hat. And when we got to the naval base gate, they couldn't believe their eyes. Anyway, they were very kind to us. They gave us a new issue of kit and everything and some money, and that was that. And I must confess at that time, I wasn't really looking forward to the next draft yet. I thought, I'm going back to sea too quickly. If you have to go, of course. But I did get a draft yet. This time, there was a little crew sent to Beirut, up the eastern end of the Mediterranean. It's well in the news now, it's part of the Middle East where all the trouble is. But in those days, it was peaceful, even though the war was on. The end of the Med was wonderful. And again, talking about education and the finishing school for me, it was so interesting when I met all kinds of people there. The American University in Beirut, I met some more people in that. And we went, the Padre took us on a week's leave to the Holy Land. Believe it or not, it's safer to do it than it is now. And we went to Jerusalem. And personally, having not had due to my personal thing, was another story, my family were not religious people at all. And I never ever had any guidance as far as religious education was concerned. I found myself in company of a mate of mine who was an ardent Methodist. And he couldn't believe his luck. We were actually in Bible land, the Garden of Gethsemane, with the tomb where, apparently according to the Bible, where the stone was rolled back and Jesus was appeared again. And he was over the moon about it, and I was quite impressed. And we walked all around the city of Jerusalem, and had a few beers lunchtime, and the Padre said, now this afternoon, he said, I want you to enjoy this. We're going to have a ride round the city on the wall. The road right round, he said. You'll enjoy that. So we thought, that'd be good. I thought to myself, well, that'll suit me. It could be lying back in a car or in a Jeep or something, yeah. But I got that wrong, as you'll see. I found myself on the back of this donkey. Well, people have said to me, yeah, Jim, were you ever frightened during the war? Well, I'll tell you, I was petrified on that thing. It had a mind of its own and insisted on walking right on the edge of the wall, a 30-foot drop, and bits are falling off it. I just shut my eyes, held its mane. We rode round Jerusalem, but I didn't see it. Anyway, it was quite a wonderful experience, and eventually I came out after being away for about 2.5 years, came back to Collingwood, and I must admit I had a certain feeling that I've now matured, because I suddenly saw new entries coming through the gate, and I thought, boy, that was me a few years ago, and they're all going to become, under the chief young minds are going to become sick, and oh dear. Anyway, from that moment on, we just amused ourselves, and I got a draft yet then to another ship. She was a colony-class frigate, a frigate not much bigger than a corvette, but she was much better armed and much more comfortable, to use the word, a bit roomy, and again, I was no longer a new boy. I settled in immediately, and we operated from Liverpool. I went up there, a signalman there had been taken to hospital with appendix or something, so I took his place. And we did a few runs around special jobs we did. We belonged to a task force, a special task force, consisting of 6 frigates. There were 2 Loch class, Loch Inch and Loch Shin, 2 Colony class, Anguilla, that was us, and Antigua, and 2 Captain American class, named after American captains, Goodall and Cotton. And the 6 of us, quite a powerful little squadron. We used to do all kinds of jobs. Then one day we discovered we were off on a Russian convoy. Now that was something different. And that really, as far as I'm concerned, was one of the most amazing parts of my life, which has stayed with me forever and will do. I won't forget any of it, but I will never ever forget that. You've all heard about it anyway. The weather conditions were atrocious. Remember I told you about this signal lamp, the oldest lamp, but it got a rubber sighting device where you did not press that against your eye. But if you did, part of your face came away with it. It was that cold. You didn't touch anything, rails, nothing. It was that cold. And obviously if you went in the water there, you didn't stand much chance. Anyway, we made our way up to into the Arctic Circle. Didn't have much trouble. We had a few skirmishes, but nothing happened. And we finally turned up in the Kola Inlet into Murmansk. And we were ordered to sail ahead of this convoy from the UK. We set off from Scotland, actually. And we were going about 5 or 6 hours ahead of them to clear the way. And we got there all right, and they followed us in. And we anchored. Funny enough, my cousin, believe it or not, he was on a Castle-class corvette. He'd done several of these convoys. And he couldn't believe it when he saw me there, neither could I. Anyway, we went ashore in Russia, and bearing in mind it's difficult to convey to you today what things were like. One reads about it, but the personal experience of going ashore and being in Russia itself, standing on their ground, and they did suffer during the war. Millions of casualties, both military and personal. And they were pretty rough and ready. And we seemed to get on well. They did appreciate what we'd done in bringing this stuff to them, and they've never forgot that. Anyway, we were in this Kola Inlet, and finally it was time for the convoy to leave. And at that stage, it is the most dangerous part of the whole operation, is to get out. Because while you're in there, there's nothing outside. And it's not unusual for a wolf pack of U-boats to sit and wait. Nothing to disturb them. The Russians did send out little patrols, but they never found anything. And they were waiting for us to come out. We had to come out in the end, of course, the convoy was due to leave, so we were ordered out. Our escort group was ordered out to clear the way. And prior to that, we'd been ashore, had a look round. In fact, to stretch our legs, we played football against our sister ship, Goodall. And they decided they'd like to have a game of football. And they went ashore, and they'd got a pitch there properly, we had a goal post, but it was frozen ground. And it was all right. Well, I didn't take part in it. I went and saw them. And it was just a case of being off the ship in the open air. In fact, it was cold, didn't matter, you ran about. And we met 1 or 2 Russians who were just standing looking, they were pleased to see us, but didn't speak English. And as I say, it was a friendly, back we came, and went back onto the jetty, and I went aboard Goodall. My mate was a coder with me in Beirut, funny enough. And he said, this is some ship, this. And it was a beautiful, typical American, you know, a little bit better than ours, if you like, comfort-wise. And it was sleek, oh, beautiful ship. And when we all sailed, it's a funny thing. When the man said, you're going, well, you go, you don't know anything about it. You just, they did, we did see I was on the jetty, actually. He called us together and said to keep our eyes open. You're going to a bit of trouble here, he said, because this is where it all happens. They're waiting for you out there. He said, but get out there as quick as you can. Don't hang about. He said, but, and wish us luck. Keep your eyes open. Fair enough. And as we steamed out, I don't know, mixed feelings really. You're going anyway. Who cares? Don't you know about it? Up on the bridge, we all got the same thought. Nobody saying anything. Got glasses looking at us. And as we came out of the Cola Inlet into what is the Barents Sea, and that is where it always happened. That is where every time, nearly every time, we lost a ship because they could not miss. They get one of you. And they got good all right. But to see this face of this man jumping out of the conning tower, running along the casing of this submarine, I thought, you got no chance, mate. But it was all part of it. The gun crew didn't give a toss. As far as they're concerned, get it. And they were like mad. You thought they'd scored a goal. They cheered like mad when she went over. There was one brave German, and they stood no chance. He scrambled out of the conning tower, ran along the casing to get to a gun. But they didn't stand a chance, and we blew them, and down they went. 51 German sailors, no survivors. Must confess, despite all that, I did feel a twinge of pity for them. That could have been us. It's one of those things. Glad it wasn't us, but that's the way it was. And of course, when one thought of what happened to our mates aboard the old good old well, we were just, I don't know, mentally in a state. Our escort sunk 2 more U-boats, and finally they went away, and we said it was clear to come out. And we received a message from the Commodore of the convoy, which said, Goodall hasn't sunk, and she was a floating wreck. Although she was torpedoed and burnt, she didn't go down. They said she's in the way. She's a hazard, sinker. And that was awful. We had to sink this thing, and it was all with heavy heart, sure enough, down she went. And again, as I said earlier, despite all the background I've spoken about, she gently tipped up, went over, and suddenly you ask yourself, was she ever there? There's no sign of anything. It must be peculiar. Anyway, we made our way home. We got back to Liverpool, and I kept noticing the fact that there were only 5 of us now instead of 6 as you steamed along. We tied up in Gladstone Dock, shut down the engines. Only then did it really dawn on us. We sent a postman ashore to get our mail, any to come. We had our, sausage and tomato, easy to cook meal. Then we sat there and just went over it. And we just weren't looking forward to the next one. But we needn't to worry because, believe it or not, the next day was May the 8th, 1945, VE Day. The war in Europe was over. I mean, everyone was delighted, so were we, to think we come through it all without still being here. But also to think of what happened only a few days back. Why us and not them? Same as ordinary people like us at the wrong time in the wrong place. We couldn't seem to join in the hilarity of the wonderful the war's over bit. And we came back, and soon after that, they began to get rid of us, demob. Because they didn't know what to do with us. They put us in demob groups of numbers. And I got a quick draft out to the Far East, believe it or not. I thought, oh, thanks very much. But they cancelled that when they dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we went to Collingwood, then they sent us home for accommodation leave, went back. In the end, they sent me up to Scotland. And I went up to Greenock. And up there, I was supposed to keep watch on a signal tower on the end of Gourock Pier, following the shipping down the Clyde and calling out every ship went by and asking what she was doing. And there were wrens there too. We shared with the wrens. It was a bit of a laugh. But I had to go ashore and find digs for myself. And there was a lovely old lady in this red sandstone tenement, Mrs. Ritchie. And she looked after me like a mother. She really was a lovely old lady. And one morning for breakfast, she gave me, it was egg and bacon, and it was actually black pudding on it, what it was, this black thing. But I didn't want to upset her, so I put it in my handkerchief, taking me jumper, went off down to the jetty and down to the seagulls. And I thought, well, okay. Next morning, I got 2 slices. So I did the same. And in the evening, I came back. She said, "Dear James, what have you been doing with that black pudding? And don't tell you've eaten it." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry." I said, "I don't like it." "Have you eaten it?" I said, "Well, no, not. How do you know you don't like it?" "I don't like the look of it then." She said, "Well, sort that out. Try that." And I quite liked it, funny enough. And I said, "How do you know I'm not eating it?" She said, "Well, you can see for yourself. There's a skin round it which you leave on the plate." So I thought, fair cop. So finally I got demobbed. But when we came back, of course, we had an interrupted apprenticeship to finish, which we did. And I finished up as a compositor. And this wonderful system you've got today, I mean, to me, it's incredible. You look at the keyboard, and that's it. And it does whatever you want to do. Now, if you can imagine all you've got is a typewriter, and you make a few mistakes, halfway, you've got to type it again. And if you've left something out, you've got to, and then I eventually went as a linotype operator, a machine which a man who invented it went mad. I'm not surprised. It was a mechanical typesetting device with great big brass canisters containing all the alphabet letters on slides. You tapped the key, came down and fell in a box with little extended space bands. And it went away when you got an assembly box anyway. The lever came up, a plunger, a mixture of printing metal is lead, antimony and tin. Mind you, in my later years, with industrial troubles, they said it was lead, acrimony and tin. But it used to produce a slug. And the type was on top of it backwards. And you could knock out 6 lines a minute. And if you want to change it again, you had to go back and start again because it all overran. And you might make more mistakes. That's why people corrected it, that sort of thing. And I finished up, believe it or not. I know it's a funny old word, this trade unionism, but the London Society of Compositors was an old-fashioned printing industry, way back. And I went to the London School of Printing, the Camberwell School of Arts. I learned that layout, which is called graphics now. But it was all done with hot metal. And I mean, and we used to do things in London, and Manchester used to do Manchester and North. And we used to use a facsimile, which send these sort of matrices up. And they cast the pages, which we'd done here. They could put them on the Oh, it was an antiquated system, but it worked. The only trouble was if cricket closed the play was 7 o'clock, you couldn't get it in. Because you had to send them off by 6:30. But nevertheless, it was quite a skilled, creative job. I mean, as an apprentice, I was absolutely over the moon working on no exaggeration, 50 different magazines. Farm, Field and Fireside, I'd love to be a farmer. Sure Leather Record, Steam Engineer, News Review, the Baker's Record. And I've done an awful lot about different things, a wide range of subjects. And you used to get colour work, which you did yourself with progressive proofs. You'd have a series of proofs. You run it through the press once with that on it, register it properly, and hopefully the next colour went right on the next one. And then on the machine it was set up so they run off. Highly skilled job. And of course, like all these jobs, it died a death. With the income of new technology, and I just caught up the tail end of that. There's a dirty word actually in my world, which is called Maxwell, who destroyed our company completely. And I was part of the Mirror Group at the time, and we taken over Maxwell, and that was the end of it. But we used to do all kinds of work there, and I found that the more you tried to do things right, till more it didn't work. It might sound Irish, but we thought we were doing the right thing. We went off to America, actually, to see if this new technology worked. And of course it worked. In fact, they were far ahead of us. But we looked at it, and when I came back, I said, well, it's going to work. I've seen the future. It does work, I said, but how are you going to change over from this to that? But of course, once you put a typewriter keyboard in the middle of it, anyone can do it. And of course, fair enough. So I was at the tail end of this new technology, so I did have an inkling of a keyboard and the way it worked. Which is why when I packed up, I got myself a computer, an old one, and my daughter is quite an expert, my guru, keeps me straight when I go wrong. And my grandson also, he come down and go like that. Okay, Grandad, thank you very much. That's how it is. But I find also that we used to have reunions, and you realise then that the world had changed, and we are now part of history. Old-fashioned printing methods. I went to a museum once, and I said, look at that, and it's the thing I worked, I couldn't believe it. Many years later, in fact, a school in Kingston upon Thames, a Tipping Girls' School, a master there had got in touch with the British Legion and said he would like, if possible, if an ex-serviceman could come to the school and talk to the pupils, because he felt that they really weren't gaining enough knowledge from videos and books. And so they asked if people would go. And my daughter went to Tipping Girls' School, and more like Centurions to me, a rough old lot they were. but I said, yes, I'd like to go. And it clicked. I absolutely loved it. It came naturally to me, and with an attentive audience, and they were very, very interested. And at the end of each lesson, the teacher would say to them, now you'll write a letter to Mr. Baynes on what you thought about it, and give them to me, and I'll post the whole lot to him. And I've got this collection, and they are wonderful. I treasure them. They prove that they understand. Not only did they write, but they illustrated their letters. You know, unbelievable. It was sincere appreciation of what I'd done. And I thought, this can't be bad. And I did it for 5 years, actually. And there's one trick, actually, which came about quite by accident. Are there any questions? And this girl got up and said, Mr. Baynes, how long is it since you used the Morse code? Well, I said, must be 70 years. You still know it? I do, of course. I said, well, I don't know. I might do. I said, could you let me have your name? Which he did. Of course, I then had a wall chart. I wrote her name downwards, put the Morse symbol alongside it, and then turned back on it and rattled it off in Morse. And the applause, I thought, this has got to be something else. But now, of course, with this new technology, you've got a huge screen which shows you the Morse code that big. So I'm able, really, don't have to write anything on the wall. I get Ken to write the name down. I got the usual showmanship, you know, and I'll turn my back on it, I promise you I won't look. And I'll write, it brings the place down. They cannot believe how anyone can remember 26 letters and 10 numbers, each one with its own combination of dots and dashes. I mean, I find it enormously funny. But it is a good punchline at the end of it all, and it makes the place roll up. And then earlier this year, again, Ken was in touch with HMS Collingwood. And he told them that I was there under training in 42, and they said, bring him back. So I went back to HMS Collingwood. I could not believe it. In my day, in the early days, it was a field with cattle all round it. It was out in the open. Not now. Fareham has developed all round it. It's in part of Fareham. Still there, of course. I went into this gate, searching all this bit. The very nice PR lady said, very good, now what would you like to see? And I said, I'd like to see the playground, please. She said, playground? No playground. I said, sorry? She said, no, we don't playground. I said, what about church parades? No, we don't do church parades. I thought my world is coming apart. I mean, it reminds me, for instance, of Star Trek, you know, beam me up, Scotty. Buzzing noise, you step out onto another planet. That's what happened to me. I'm in HMS Collingwood and there's no parade ground, no. She said, if you want that, you what? And there was this delightful little chapel, which was there when I was there actually. And there's a flag hoist which says welcome. Very nicely laid out. I said, well, that's it. And I said, I don't believe this. Anyway, I was taken into their, what I used to know as a canteen. You've got a hotel lounge, carpet, magazines, a bar. I mean, it's rickety old table with beer stains all over it, that was a thing of the past. I feel like joining up again, you know, got a bit of a laugh. But the Navy of today I cannot talk about because I don't know it. It's totally, totally different. And obviously it's governed to a certain extent by health and safety. It's more of an academic tuition rather than physical. Well, you just have to be fit to do it, but the joining routine there, apparently you become phase one and that allows you to stay there for a month en suite to see if you like the place. I don't know what Chief Weiner would have thought of that. And if you do like it, you become phase two, now you're in. And they're all nice. And again, in this day and age, is now mixed. And to me, the Navy never was. And I cannot even imagine that would never have worked in my day, believe me, it would never have worked. They could never got women on a flower class corvette. No way. But there you are, it was a different world then. But I found myself thinking, well, times changed so much, and I'm so pleased to have seen things actually as they happened, and now to be able to make a comparison today, and still they change. And one of the things, though, which hasn't changed, and I'm going back now to our Russian episodes, I'm a member, I'm proud to be a member of the Russian Arctic Convoy Club. And you cannot change history. Whatever happens in 2018, you look at the world, I'm not getting political here, not at all. Things change. I will not hear a word against them because I belong to a Russia, my friendship belongs to a Russia where we were glad of each other's company and we relied upon each other and for real. And I haven't learned that from books or videos. I've learned that personally and been taking part in it. And to me, it's that important. Nobody will ever convince me there's anything wrong with Russia, the Russian people particularly. And the greatest day was when I, along with one or two others, my dear old friend Ken Watson was with me in 2015. We were invited up to the Federation of Russia Embassy in Knightsbridge. And the ambassador personally presented us with the Yusikov. And to me, that is marvellous. Every one of us got one of those. There were 20 of us at the time, these are in batches. And to me, they are this unbreakable, unshakable, permanent friendship which will last forever. And believe me, it will. Usually when I kick off these speeches, I say, look, you're all aware of that fantastic sitcom, Only Fools and Horses. You remember Dilboy's Uncle Albert, who told you what I'd done in the war? Well, I'm not Uncle Albert, but from time to time I will be touching on things a bit delicate. which is a good start, actually.